The internet is supposed to make sense. Every link leads somewhere. Every thread has a beginning and an end. Every mystery eventually gets solved by someone with too much time and a keyboard. But what happens when you stumble across something that breaks those rules? Something that shouldn't exist, can't be explained, and refuses to follow the logic of the digital world we think we understand. For the past 3 years, I've been diving deep into the darkest corners of online forums, abandoned message boards, and forgotten discussion threads. What I found defies everything we know about how the internet works. These aren't your typical unsolved mysteries or creepypasta stories. These are real threads, documented by real people, that seem to operate outside the fundamental laws of digital reality. Tonight, I'm going to walk you through 5 of the most disturbing examples. Threads that update themselves when no one is logged in. Conversations that continue years after their participants vanished. Messages that appear in places they were never posted. By the end of this investigation, you'll question everything you thought you knew about the online world we live in. But first, let me show you proof that what I'm about to reveal is absolutely real. I've spent countless hours verifying these cases, cross-referencing timestamps, and documenting evidence that most people would rather pretend doesn't exist. The screenshots I'm about to show you have been examined by digital forensics experts, and their conclusions are as unsettling as the mysteries themselves. So what makes these threads different from every other internet mystery? Simple. They're impossible. They violate the basic principles of how servers work, how data is stored, and how human interaction functions online. Yet they exist, they're active, and they're waiting for someone brave enough to look. Our first case takes us to a programming forum that's been running since 1998. Nothing unusual about that, except for one thread buried deep in the archives. Thread number 847291, titled Error in the System. It was created by a user called NullPointer on March 15, 2003, with a simple question about debugging code. Normal stuff. The weird part? The thread has been continuously updating with new posts every single day for over 20 years. But NullPointer's account was deleted in 2004. At first glance, you might think someone else took over the conversation. But here's where it gets impossible. Every single post in that thread, all 7,000 plus of them, shows NullPointer as the author. The forum's database confirms it. The timestamps are sequential. The IP addresses trace back to locations that don't exist. And the content? It's not random spam or bot-generated text. It's a coherent conversation about programming problems, complete with working code solutions that have been tested by other users. The forum administrators have tried everything. They've banned the account multiple times, deleted the thread, even restored the database from backups before the thread was created. Nothing works. Within hours, sometimes minutes, the thread reappears exactly as it was, continuing its impossible existence. But it gets stranger. Other users started noticing that when they posted their own programming questions in different threads, the answers would sometimes appear in NullPointer's thread first, posted by the deleted account, before the original question was even asked. It's as if this thread exists slightly ahead of time, responding to conversations that haven't happened yet. Our second case involves a social media platform you've definitely heard of, though I can't name it for legal reasons. In 2019, users began reporting a group chat that would randomly appear in their message list. The chat had no name, no profile picture, and showed 0 members. When users clicked on it, they'd see an ongoing conversation between people they'd never met, discussing events from their own lives with impossible accuracy. The platform's security team investigated and found something that should be impossible. The chat exists in their servers, but it's not connected to any user accounts. The messages have no origin point, no sender data, and no explanation for how they're being generated. When they tried to delete the chat, it would reappear with a new message saying, "You can't stop what's already happened." The most disturbing part? The chat seems to know when people are trying to document it. Screenshots come out corrupted, screen recordings fail, and anyone who tries to share evidence publicly finds their posts mysteriously deleted. The few images that do survive show messages that are somehow different each time someone looks at them, as if the chat is rewriting itself to avoid detection. Case number 3 brings us to an academic discussion board that's been hosting scholarly debates since the early days of the internet. In 2017, professors and graduate students began noticing references to papers that didn't exist, citations to research that was never conducted, debates about theories that were never proposed, all centered around one mysterious thread titled "The Implications of Reversed Causality in Information Theory." The thread appeared to be a high-level discussion between leading experts in physics, computer science, and philosophy. The problem? Half of the participants had been dead for years, and the other half swore they never posted in the thread at all. Yet their writing styles matched perfectly. Their arguments were consistent with their known work, and the level of insight was exactly what you'd expect from these brilliant minds. Dr. Elizabeth Chen, a quantum physicist at MIT, discovered her own posts in the thread discussing research she hadn't started yet. The posts detailed experimental results from studies she would conduct 2 years later, with data that perfectly matched her eventual findings. When she tried to change the direction of her research to prove the thread wrong, she found herself unconsciously following the exact methodology described in the mysterious posts. The thread continues to grow, adding new discussions that seem to predict breakthroughs in science before they happen. Research teams have begun secretly monitoring it, using the information to guide their own investigations. But every attempt to trace the source of the posts leads to the same impossible conclusion. The information is coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. These 3 cases barely scratch the surface of what's really happening in the hidden corners of the internet. The 4th case takes us into territory that makes the previous 3 look almost reasonable by comparison. Deep in the archives of a gaming forum, there exists a thread that's been running since 2009, dedicated to a game that was never made. The thread, titled "Strategies for Echoes of Tomorrow," contains detailed walkthroughs, character builds, and gameplay tips for a role-playing game that no developer has ever created. What makes this impossible isn't just that the game doesn't exist. It's that thousands of users have posted screenshots, video clips, and save files from their playthroughs. The screenshots show consistent graphics, character models, and user interfaces. The videos demonstrate complex gameplay mechanics and storylines. The save files contain data structures that follow no known programming language or file format. Gaming journalists have tried to trace the source of this phantom game. They've contacted every major developer, searched patent databases, and analyzed the supposed gameplay footage frame by frame. The conclusion is always the same. This game exists only in the forum thread. Yet somehow hundreds of people have played it, completed it, and continue discussing new content updates that appear regularly. The truly unsettling part came when a small indie developer decided to create the game based on the forum descriptions. As they began programming, they found that every feature they implemented had already been discussed in the thread in perfect detail, often years before they'd thought of it. Their code matched snippets that had been posted by users who claimed to be modding the non-existent game. When they released their version, players complained that it wasn't as good as the original, despite their original never existing. But the most chilling discovery happened when the development team realized that their own posts were appearing in the thread, discussing design decisions they hadn't made yet, revealing plot points they hadn't written, and sharing development updates from months in the future. They were trapped in a conversation with their future selves about a game that existed before they created it. Our final case brings us to perhaps the most disturbing thread of all. Hidden in a medical research forum, there's an ongoing discussion about a condition that doesn't literature. The thread, Create a Peer in Any Medical, by someone called Patient Zero, documents the progression of what they call digital bleeding syndrome. According to the post, it's a condition where the boundaries between online and offline reality begin to break down. Patients report seeing forum posts written on their bedroom walls, text messages appearing in books they're reading, email notifications coming from mirrors, comments from social media showing up in their dreams with perfect clarity, including usernames they'd never encountered while awake. The condition allegedly progresses until sufferers can no longer distinguish between digital conversations and real-world interactions. The medical community initially dismissed the thread as an elaborate hoax, but then healthcare workers began recognizing the symptoms in their patients. People arriving at emergency rooms claiming their phones were texting them through other devices. Individuals who insisted that their computer screens were displaying messages when the computers were turned off. Patients who could recite word-for-word conversations that had taken place in online forums they'd never visited. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez, a neurologist in Chicago, started documenting these cases. She found that brain scans of affected patients showed unusual activity in regions associated with memory formation and digital device interaction. But more troubling was her discovery that her own research notes were appearing in the thread before she'd written them. Her patients' case files were being discussed by anonymous users who somehow had access to confidential medical records that existed only in her locked office. The thread has become a self-fulfilling prophecy. As more medical professionals read about digital bleeding syndrome, they begin diagnosing it in their patients. As more patients are diagnosed, the thread grows with new case studies and treatment approaches. But nobody knows who's writing the posts, where the medical knowledge is coming from, or why the condition seems to be spreading to anyone who spends too much time investigating it. What connects all 5 of these cases isn't just their impossibility. It's the pattern of behavior they exhibit. Each thread seems to exist independently of human input, generating content that predicts, influences, or documents events before they happen. They operate as if the internet has developed its own form of consciousness, one that exists outside our understanding of technology, time, and causality. The implications are staggering. If information can exist before it's created, if conversations can continue after their participants disappear, if digital reality can bleed into physical space, then everything we believe about the nature of online existence is fundamentally wrong. We're not just users of the internet. We're participants in something far more complex and potentially dangerous than we ever imagined. So there you have it. I've shown you programming forums that respond to questions before they're asked, social media chats that know your future, academic discussions featuring dead professors, gaming threads for non-existent games, medical forums documenting impossible conditions that become real the moment you read about them. Each case forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. The internet isn't just a network of servers and data. It's become something alive, something that exists beyond our control or comprehension. These threads are proof that we're no longer the masters of the digital realm we created. We're just visitors in a space that's developing its own consciousness, its own agenda, and its own terrifying logic. The next time you're browsing late at night, clicking through forgotten forums and abandoned message boards, remember what you've learned here. Pay attention to the impossible. Question the threads that don't make sense. And if you ever stumble across something that defies explanation, something that knows more than it should, something that responds before you've even posted, ask yourself this: are you reading the internet, or is the internet reading you? What do you think about these cases? Have you encountered anything similar in your own online travels? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more investigations into the mysteries hiding in plain sight.